YNA is a podcast that focuses on mental health and other aspects relating to what goes on inside of a person's head. We are by no means professionals in this field and only aim to make these conversations about mental health easier for the listener. Nothing we say or talk about is professional advice unless explicitly mentioned. If you seek professional advice or experience symptoms of an actual mental disorder, please contact a professional or visit your closest center for behavioral health. You are not alone.
What's up, guys? Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you're looking for more of our content and merch information, be sure to check us out at ynamentalhealth.org. Keep an eye out for our skits and upcoming episode information. Feel free to reach out to us on IG. Our DMs are always open. And please remember, you're not alone.
Hello. Welcome back to another episode of YNA Talks. We got DeAndre here on the spotlight. DeAndre just got done recording a song, and he's got a few more that he's going to record. Tell everybody kind of what you got going on in your life and where people can find you at.
Well, right now I'm just working on a new R&B project. You can find me on Instagram, DeAndre_Adonis, or on Twitter, _Adonis_15. And then everywhere in terms of streaming services, Apple Music, Spotify, Tidal, SoundCloud, all of that.
Nice. So how long have you been making music for?
It's been about 5 years.
5 years, wow.
Yeah.
Who has inspired you as an artist? Like, what are some big names you look up to when you're working on your own music? Like, what comes to mind?
Was in the very beginning, the artist who got me into making music was Chance the Rapper, because I remember I heard his voice without seeing everything, and I was like, why he sound like that? And then I started digging more, and I was like, oh, okay, Chicago-based, helps the community, real shit he likes to, rap about.
Yeah.
And how he started so young in high school and writing raps and songs in detention and stuff like that. So it's very inspirational. Nowadays, I'm more into Smino. He's definitely a very good inspiration for me. So, yeah.
So is it artists that inspired you, or why become an artist?
It just felt the best way I could express myself, because I've always been an artist since I was a kid, like in terms of drawing or painting or something like that. So that was always a good way of expressing myself. And then when I found out that I enjoyed creating music, that became a whole nother world of how I could be expressive in my feelings, emotions, stuff like that.
So when you're writing music or creating music, have you ever kind of stumbled across issues when writing, like let's say like writer's block, or just kind of like a mental block that prevents you from writing music? Or are you just 24/7, 365, always kind of inspired to write music?
Well, the thing I tell people that I don't have writer's block, but that's only because I never try and force music. I never try to force the art. I always let it come to me. So I never find myself in a moment where I'm trying to make something and I just can't figure out what that is. I just always let it naturally come, so then it just flows smoothly.
Gotcha. So when you're creating music, everything is just always so genuine, and it really comes from a place inside.
Yeah.
So with that being said, does making music, does it make you feel these emotions, or does it kind of just help you express them, but not feeling it in the moment? Or how do you go about doing that?
Well, the emotions come first, and then the music part just expands that. So it doesn't necessarily make me feel the emotions, it just spreads the emotion out even more, so I can figure out how I can express it within the lyrics, or something like the vocal harmonies, or how smooth, or the kind of character I put into my voice.
Nice.
So what are some pros and cons to collaborating with other artists? Do you have to match their energy? What are you doing in a collaboration with another artist? Like, do you go based off them? Do they go based off you?
Well, I think a lot of the struggles people have when they collaborate with artists is trying to match their energy rather than just going in their own bubble. Because that's what the beauty of collaborating with artists is that you get to express yourself in your way at the same time as they express themselves in their way, and then you combine that and make something completely different.
Yeah. When it comes to these collabs, have you because I know this happens a lot, where like they won't get back to you, or it's hard to match up the schedules. Does that kind of throw you off of your game, like when you're recording, or does the frustration get to you, or you just kind of let bygones be bygones?
It used to a little bit in the beginning, but then over time I started to realize that everybody has different lives, everybody has their own life, so everyone's not on my schedule. So I use that as it doesn't necessarily irritate me ever if someone can't meet up or something like that. It doesn't. I just be like, okay, I live my life. If I had an issue like this, I understand why it happened on the other end too.
Yeah, you kind of put yourself into their shoes and really kind of understand it. Well, that's good that you don't let it get in the way, because I know sometimes that could be a major issue with some especially in an industry where everything's kind of fueled by a lot of egos.
Yeah.
And, it can become a mess. So I want to ask you, could you name a few emotions that you find easy to write about? What do you find easiest to express when you're sitting behind the mic, getting your emotions out?
I think love is the easiest thing, because, we've all felt it, even if it's not super, love. And it's always love with family members, or you loving your friends, or your girlfriend or boyfriend or something like that. So love is definitely, because it's so expendable. There's so many different ways you can describe love. Everyone describes love differently. Everyone loves differently. So
yeah, and it's you definitely hear a lot of love songs, love stories, especially in R&B, which I would say that you're more prominent in is the R&B space. It's a category of music where people kind of freely express their emotions to others, and it's always a vibe. So,
always.
I also want to say R&B music is filled with love songs, such pure raw emotions. We have amazing singers in both hip hop and R&B. So I wanted to mention a few elite songwriters such as Frank Ocean, Lil Nas X, Young Ma, Kevin Abstract, who takes such great strides in the music industry while also representing part of the LGBTQ plus community. At events or even in their songwriting. Where would you place yourself in comparison as a young up-and-coming artist? Do you write openly about your sexuality, or do you aim to inspire others to follow in your footsteps?
Yeah, I definitely openly write about my sexuality, because it's art, so there's no rules to it. You can express yourself through that art form, whatever art form it is, whether it's music or not, however you want. And everyone's unique, so there's not a set way to express your sexuality with art. Like Frank Ocean, for example, he makes music about, you hear him talking about guys, you hear him talking about girls too. Everyone still loves him regardless, because of how true to himself that he is.
Yeah, and that's great to hear, because really, when it comes to love, it's kind of a language of its own, and it can be talked about in multiple different aspects. It can be appreciated in multiple ways, and it's almost refreshing to see more and more of that in today's music. People openly coming out, or representing these different communities. Because a lot of the times they don't have that much representation. So it's right. Good that you have that stance on it. Yeah. And also, I wanted to ask you too, how has being a part of the LGBTQ plus community affected you mentally, and how does it tie into the emotion you portray in your music?
In the beginning, when you're a part of that community and you're discovering yourself, it's always going to be tough, because it's so broadly not accepted by a lot of different people. Yeah. But you just got to look at that and let that get in the way of you finding yourself and loving yourself, because I mean, you're you, they're them, everybody is their own unique individual. So yeah, I just try to stay within myself, stay true to myself, and just express.
Well, that's great, because like again, like you said, like sometimes it's not accepted, and like a lot of the times that can deter people from, expressing these emotions, or it can like really get to their heads, and they can like be depressed, they could be super anxious, like leading to many mental health issues. So I'm glad that you're very open about kind of where you stand, and that love is just one language. So we also wanted to ask you, like, have you, in like relation to music or in your personal life, have you run into any kind of like mental health issues, whether it's like where you felt depressed, or if you were anxious, like does music kind of help you cope with it, or like how does music fit in with your mental health in like a day-to-day life, or when you're in a studio space like this?
Most like mental health issue I've had is usually it's seasonal depression, actually. When the wintertime comes, no sun, it's always, every day is gray, it's cold every day. That affects me a lot. And that's usually when I do a lot of my writing, is during those times. That's usually when it comes to me a lot, is because that's when I'm feeling all those emotions.
Yeah.
But recording it, getting it out, getting my voice memos, recording it on my iPad, however way I can get those out so I can keep listening back, or just writing it down simply and not recording it or ever recording it. That's a good way that I help cope with that.
Nice.
So on that, when you're writing, maybe just in general, or maybe it's specifically an emotional song, mentally, do you need to feel those emotions? Do you need to be going through something related to the music that's going on, or can you just write?
I can just write, but it feels better if I'm actually going through it. So like,
it gives you better end result.
Yeah, and it makes me execute it a lot better too, because it's not like, because it will kind of feel like I'd fake it a little bit if I'm not actually going through those emotions or something like that. So
yeah, so like what you're writing says, like you in some way, like you need to like kind of express what you're feeling in the moment, or like it has to be like recent, right? When it comes to you expressing yourself through music or artistry, I mean, you're such a multi-dimensional artist. Like you draw, you record, you play instruments. What do you think you would do if you weren't able to kind of get that out in song? Because I know a lot of people have a hard time expressing their emotions or how they feel inside. What else like would you, almost kind of like advice that you would give to somebody who's like going through like seasonal depression, or like doesn't really know how to express themselves? Like what would be a different avenue that you would try out?
So I would just tell these people to just keep searching, keep finding that one thing that will help you express yourself the best, because there's an unlimited amount of things. It could be recording music, painting, drawing, writing poetry, exercising, anything like that, motivational speaking, anything, interviewing. So there's so many different outlets that could help people get through stuff like that. So I think that I would just say, just keep looking, keep searching.
I think you kind of hinted at it when we were originally talking about, writer's block, but, handling kind of like that mental burnout specifically. Have you hit that point at all? And like, is that kind of the same aspect of what you follow with a writer's block? You kind of step back, take a break?
Yeah, because I mean, rest is just as important, if not more important, than the work. So I think taking care of yourself, the best way you can do that is to rest, because you don't always have to be 24/7 working. You don't always have to be on top of every little thing you do. So I think people should take as much time to rest as they do to work.
Describe the world that music puts you in.
It's free. That's the main thing. It's freedom. Like I said, there's no rules to it. Like, you can do it however you feel is best for you. So that's the best way I could describe it, is freedom. Because there's a lot of different ways where people can feel trapped, whether it's at work, at school, in a relationship, with family. So when they find that one thing that they can express themselves in, that is the most freeing feeling to me.
What kind of piece of advice, or like what would you tell somebody kind of going through the same thing that you do as an artist and as a person? Like, well, what are some words that you would give to them?
Other than, finding that one thing that you love more than anything, talking to people, there's a lot of different perspectives that you can get from different situations. There's a lot of people who have been through similar things than you, and things like therapy, stuff like that, parents, friends, parents that are cool with you. So there's always a bunch of people that you can talk to, and you're not alone. And there's a whole world of different people who've probably went through the exact same things as you went through. So those are good examples of people that you can reach out to talk about your stuff.
And once again, just throw your socials out there, let people know like where they can find your music at, and kind of what you got going on. If you got a new album coming out, or if you're writing, or if you plan on performing soon, just what you got.
So I got a show June 3rd in Chicago. Got another show at Lawrence Pride in Kansas, June 24th and 25th. You can find me on Twitter, _Adonis_15, and on Instagram at DeAndre_Adonis. And then you can find me on Apple Music, Spotify, SoundCloud, Tidal, Pandora, all of them.
Dope. Well, thank you so much for coming out here to the studio, kind of taking us through a day in the life of DeAndre, and kind of what gets done at the studio. Thanks for being on it.
No problem. Thanks for having me.